What's up and welcome back. It's another pilot review. I'm doing these. This is a new series on Disney Plus. I think it's just a British import. It doesn't make any sense for Disney's brand, but this is Renegade Nell. I'm not really honestly not sure how we got this series, but it has an audio description company I've never IOU. Is that right? Was that right? And it's written and narrated by the same person. So maybe this guy just does narration at home. I don't know. I feel like I've never heard of this company, never heard of the narrator before. Um, and so I'm going to need you to click that subscribe button. Actually, Nell wants you to click that subscribe button. She's paying close attention. And if you don't do it, she's going to renegade all over you. And if you watch this series, it's not good when she renegades. Anyway, this is just the first episode. I like pilots. I like talking about pilots, and this is an expertly crafted pilot. This is exactly everything a pilot should be. This feels like a show that had to create a pilot to get picked up to series. This feels like a show that had to explain and set up a premise and set up the show, and it does it very well. It uses sort of the structure of, oh my God, I have these powers, and I'm just now finding out along with the audience about these powers and what they are. And as the series progresses, I will learn the parameters for which my abilities lie. When can I use them? How long? What are the rules of these abilities? And also the season-long story arc that is likely to follow, that ties in with her family. We're introduced to Nell as a Nelly, as she's on her way home. She was fighting on the front lines of some war. Doesn't even matter. They don't even care. Like it's so pointless to even talk about her past because it's all about the future. The show may reflect on her past from time to time, but it's not about that. It's about this thing that happens to her. So she gets sort of held up, and for some reason, she gets a little gold thing that flies into her, and it's like when Mario eats a mushroom, and she gets superpowers and is able to fight off these highwaymen, and beats the living crap out of them, and wins the fight. um, and she's like, wow, I did that. And finally, so she goes home and she's got stories to tell. Her dad's there. She's got a sister, maybe two sisters. I was actually kind of unsure about the other one, whether or not they were all sisters or whether or not the little one was like adopted, or she has at least one of these as a sister. Um, and they run the tavern, but they live on this land, with all of these things where peasants didn't really own lands. They kind of like leased them from whoever was in charge of the area at the time. So there's this guy who has this super douchey son, Freddie or something like that. He's just total douchebag. And douchebag wanders into the bar, and he's the most entitled person ever. I don't know. It's just entitlement just reigns from this guy. He just flows, and has horrible interactions with every human that he's with. And Nell thinks because she has her powers once that she has them again, and so she tries to start a fight with this guy because he's clearly being a dick to everybody. And this is how she comes to find out that she's sort of like losing because she can't fight. And we are introduced to her powers, which is Billy Blind. It's a little sprite thing that does not give us a whole lot of context. He's obviously going to tell us more in future episodes, but he just kind of appears later on, and he's like, by the way, I'm here to protect you, but I'm not here to instigate violence. And she's like, what? Who are you? I mean, he seems to know a lot, and we just take it at face value. And that's Renegade Nell. I don't want to spoil the whole pilot for you, but there's sort of a big thing that happens with her family and the villain and sets that forth, and she ends up running into one of the highwaymen again, so he's probably going to be a recurring character. Um, and there is more of a kingdom that's above the fiefdom that she's on. So there's a guy that's even above the people that we're at, and there's reference to a queen and lots of potential here for future episodes. And you do sort of get a little bit of a hint of her knowing what her powers are, and she's starting to learn the parameters, and she has to listen to Billy when Billy says, you know, I'm not going to help you if you do this, or you have to do it this way, and she's begrudgingly has to do it his way if she wants his assistance, if she wants to be turned into a badass. This series does everything right. It's interesting. It has solid leads. The only reason you wouldn't like this is if you just don't like shows like this. There really isn't I mean, the first episode gives you everything that you need to know about to make an informed decision as to whether or not this is going to be your show. It's one of the best pilots I've seen in a long time. It almost feels like it's the first part of a movie. Like there's just only 2 episodes, and we're just gonna end up watching the second part of the episode. I have no idea what this is gonna be like long term. But I'm really interested to see it. It could have a very Buffy the Vampire Slayer feel to it, um, which could be a very good thing that works out in its favor. The audio description, though, it's got some issues. I'm gonna be honest, and I don't usually have these kinds of problems. A lot of people in the audio description community don't like interpretive audio description when it takes things and it tries to read into, you know, Billy frowns because he's angry. You know, like just say Billy frowns, you know? Something like that. This actually does things where it's like he almost breaks away from being an audio description narrator into an actual just narrator. There's like a scene where she's fighting and she's like, and she throws a punch, and that's a good thing too because behind her, and it's like, what is that's a good thing too? What is that? Why is that in there? Like, why? That's your opinion. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not even, you're not even trying to, like, you're interpreting the totality of the scene. You know what I'm saying? Like, it feels like something that you would do if you were narrating like a book, or if you were the narrator of the show, like if you were the voice of God in the show, coming in and narrating. It doesn't feel like audio description to me. It just feels so out of place. I do think the show has solid audio description. I just think he really takes liberties as the writer narrator. I can actually say that. At IOU, I think that's what they said. I promise to be more on top of this in the future, but it's somebody I'm completely unfamiliar with. I don't think I've ever heard their narration before. Like the voice, he's British. It matches the sort of Irish British tone of the series. These people are not difficult to understand. It's not that thick of an accent. If you're worried, if you're like, oh, I can never understand what British people are saying, I'd be like, man, if you can't understand what these people are saying, I don't know. I feel like they're trying really hard here to be clearly understood with their accents. They're not that thick. I've heard way thicker before. This is a pretty great series that Disney Plus has concocted here. I don't know why. It's not tied into anything. She's not a Disney princess. This isn't Merida. This is nothing. This is just this thing that popped up on Disney Plus, and they're like, Renegade Nell. I even got a push notification for it. I was like, okay, Renegade Nell is a thing, and I liked it, and I'm really happy that I started watching it, and I think you will be too. But yeah, that narrator, I can't fully give him a pass. However, if you take the couple of little quirks that he throws in where he thinks the world is about him, and throw those out and listen to the rest of what he's describing, it's really well done. It's really nice audio description. So he does the description of all sort of like the fantastical stuff with Billy is done pretty well. Billy's described pretty well once we see him. We don't see him that much. And with Nell and the fighting sequences, those are done okay. Some of them get are done better. Others are he doesn't describe during the fight because there's something happening where the crowd is like cheering or they're like no 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 no, you know, like you hear like background noise even though the people who are actually doing the fighting are not having any dialogue. And I guess because there's background cheering, he felt like he doesn't want to trample that as dialogue. I don't know. But there was definitely a fight between, I'm going to keep saying his name is Freddie. Or maybe it's Thomas. It's something like Thomas or Freddie, one of those two. Um, and there's a fight between that guy and Nell. And it goes for a while without describing anything, and then I realize, is he not trampling the crowd noise? Is because at the end he kind of summarizes the fight, like when he gets a second, he summarizes everything that happened. But meanwhile, you're hearing her like getting drowned. You're hearing all these things happen. Like the Dolby team is doing a really good job. You're like, what is the on it? Where did he go? Because he's been pretty solid as a narrator up until this point. Did he fall asleep? I think he just didn't want to trample crowd noise, which again is an odd choice, but whatever. So, I like this, but structurally as a pilot and the audio description is mostly okay. So, I'm gonna go pretty positive on this. I'm saying Renegade Nell gets an A. I'm really actually looking forward to the second episode, which is rare. There are a lot of shows where I feel like I'm like, oh, I'll give the second episode a chance. Oh, we'll see where it goes. Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. Oh, well, the one actor was good. You know, stuff like that. I do that all the time. This one, I'm like, I could have watched the second episode. I could have binge watched at least another episode, even though I don't binge watch. So, and that says a lot for me. So anyway, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I hope you check the series out. Let me know if you did in the comments, and I'll see you guys on the other side.